question, does anyone else want to take notice, or do you want me to do it again? I will do it again, but I am gonna look at some point for. Cause it's tough to lead a meeting and take notes for the lieutenant to come from, so. So you must be Paul Taylor.
I am.
No, I'm not. I'm Wendy. I think you know Pat.
Yep.
Okay,
Just that. Yeah.
okay, great.
I have one thing, you won't be able to vote on the minute or approve the minutes
Yeah, that's,
because Paul Dennis is not here and Paul Taylor was not at the last meeting.
okay. We have 12 to vote on them. That said, ask Pat or Brian, whether or not in reading the draft of the minutes that were sent out, if you have any additions, thoughts.
Actually, I like the format that you used. It's really easy. When you say sent out.
I sent an email out, and let me check, make sure we've got the correct email address for you. It was Pat Lisa McD at Comcast.
Yep.
Okay, that was sent out on August 10th at 10:09 a.m. And I sent those out, so if you could take a look. I know one of the things that I did not capture in the minutes that we can talk about this week, so I'll capture in this one, will be that the discussion we had about the FOA education and being signed in. And I know you were sworn in. I know you've been sworn in.
I was sworn in half an hour.
Okay, so just Paul Dennis still needs to be done. And have you taken the FOA training, done that FOA training, the freedom of information?
No.
Did you get the email with the minutes? So you had them? Okay. Great. So we have your word address. So we will not vote on that. We'll put to vote on the minutes next time when Paul Dennis is here. But you guys don't have any comments on them.
I thought it was comprehensive, but I was too.
And from what I understand, online did not work as well, so I don't know if it was recorded to even watched.
It recorded,
Did sound record?
I just had an individual tell me that he could barely hear us, that's
Oh.
all. But the whole boosted thing, so we'll see how it goes tonight.
Next thing on the agenda is committee composition. We've had, I guess Mary Stanton has resigned. So we're down to 4 members. And the question is, I mean, we could add a member, we could stay at 4. I know there was a little difficulty in getting members last time, so, and I would just ask for input on what you guys think on that.
If we could find someone else, or more than one someone else, that'd be great. I was saying that more the merrier, better, you know. But if we can't, then can we continue with 4? We can't.
Yes, can continue with 4. Brian, is that something you can ask Nicole if she could put something in another publication saying that, you know,
Looking for a format person.
at least one more to replace Barry. But I think that as, given what we have to do in front of us, I think that probably we should keep going as is and not wait for more.
Agree.
Okay. As far as more members go, is there anything that in particular you're thinking we should target people with experience, people with any, we may be lucky to get anybody at all, but anything that you can think that we might want to target?
I think like you just said. I think anybody can get.
Okay.
You,
And I know the select board has to take a look and approve them, there's a. The next thing that we have to talk about on the agenda are really our tasks. That we've got next, and I've cut those into a couple of things, and I know we talked about it last time. One is the trash, the solid waste is made up of trash and recycling, two separate kind of things, related but separate. We do have a firm deadline coming up with us on the trash pickup. And so the thought is, should we focus there and get that moving along before we start tackling anything on rewriting the ordinance and putting some thought into recycle on that, just because of the urgency of making sure we've got.
can we? Write propose an ordinance that isn't specific to how trash was picked up.
I think as we talked last time. And this is, I think what captured in the minutes was that we're looking for an ordinance that is gonna be more about what has to be done as opposed to how it's done. And when we were talking about trash, we were talking about making sure that it meets what the state statutes are on that, which are very broad, but still there is a state statute saying that the town's got a role in that. So I think if I'm understanding what you're saying, I like the thought of going with that and saying this is what has to be done, but not this is how to do it. Because there are lots of ways to do it. The easiest may be just replace what we have. You know, a vendor that will come in and do pickup. But it can range, I mean, add a staff member, buy a truck and have the town. That's one thing, have a big, if we wanted, we could have a town dump, which I'm not advocating by any means, but that would meet the state statute. So I'm thinking within the ordinance, we should be able to allow the town the flexibility to change model as circumstances change. Does that make sense?
Where I was going with that was kind of, right now we have a curbside pickup of trash. For paper bag, and if we decided or thought that maybe a centralized location where everybody brought their trash and it's hauled off from there. As long as the ordinance didn't specifically say one or the other or something else.
We can word an ordinance such that it gives the freedom. And, we can word it such that, the select board has that freedom. We can word it such that the model can change at town meeting. I mean, we can word it many different ways and then whatever we put in the ordinance would need to be approved, so. But I don't think that wording is that much of a problem. But so does that make sense that the next thing we really need to focus on?
That's something we're gonna real deadline, so.
Yeah, because I forget what his name is, he's retiring at the end of the year, that's it. you know, if we get into January without this solved. Trash is gonna be sitting in people's roads. For a long time.
Well, he has a contract until June 30th.
Is it,
He does.
So is he gonna retire June 30th or the same
At the end of his contract.
end of his contract? So we got till June.
Well,
okay, cause last, we talked about
I
December.
mean, we need to do something in place.
When's our real deadline, Brian?
we, in order for. Budget, getting a new contractor budgeted in, we have to know by January 1. That's why December 23 is listed here.
And that makes sense to be able to have a contract for somebody
Yeah,
a few months ahead. of time.
exactly. We want to be 6 months out. In setting this budget. Give it the town meeting.
So that come July 1. Those trash is in the end.
And I gave you a copy of this contract.
Yeah, I see that. I was in and had time to take a look at it, and I definitely will. Brian, a couple of things that you were gonna do, and maybe you can fill us in. Talk to other towns, see what they were doing, other vendors we have. I mean, what's the market look like
Right, so
out there
I
for crown haulers?
have talked briefly with Richmond. I have an appointment to meet with Topsom on Friday. I have I tried to talk to a town manager at Bowden. They do not have a town manager.
Yeah,
So I've talked to a couple residents in Bowden to see what their process is over there. Until I can get with somebody from the town. They're set up differently from
yeah, they're
any other town, that's
very skinny on their.
right.
They used to have one guy that did a lot for me. I forget his name. He was great, but that's been a number of years. I don't know what they're doing now. What did we find out?
Well, I haven't finished with any town yet.
Oh,
I've spoken, I've set up appointments with towns and. I went over and I talked to one of the selectmen at Richmond. Had about an hour-long conversation with him. On how they run their program over there. And it's pretty much. If everybody is on their own.
Oh.
Trash. Town does not have a trash service.
so the town doesn't. So state ordinance aside, and I know we did talk about this a little bit, they don't do any.
They have a transfer station, but they do not accept trash. So the residents are on their own to come up with a hauler.
Did he say anything about the residents? I mean, if you're talking to them now, what residents think of that on the.
We didn't get into that part of it. It kind of rolled into another issue where. We started talking about their program. And. We basically showed them how they could save a lot of money. Their budgets.
Oh, so you were helping them more than they were.
That's what it turned into,
Okay.
yes.
Cool. Okay,
And Friday I meet with Ed, Karen and Topsom. To go over their system. Now all their trash, they collect trash at their transfer station.
Brian, and this is just me, I don't know if it's the rest of them. What is the difference? What exactly makes something a transfer station? What is, because I know. Back when we were talking about the barn, there were some issues with the barn could not become a transfer station, but it could be, and. I will confess that I really didn't understand the intricacies. Of what a transfer station was versus what we have. And
Right, so a recycling center can only accept certain items. The transfer station can accept pretty much anything. And the difference between the two is basically where you're located. You have to meet certain criteria to be a transfer station. There's less restrictions in order to be a recycling center.
Okay,
Setbacks or
Yeah.
neighbors, road sightline.
and I know that the recycle barn had some issues around the setbacks, if I remember correctly, but that's. That's all dealing with recycling though, and not necessarily. Cause if a transfer station can accept anything, but it doesn't accept trash, then it doesn't accept anything.
Well, a transfer station can accept trash.
Okay,
It's. Richmond does not. In their instance, they are a transfer station, but they do not accept trash.
so what do they accept that we don't? Recycling wise, cause I know we used to accept things like paint,
We do, we still do.
okay? So again. So we accept paint, we accept recycles, what are some of the things at transfer station?
Bulky waste.
Oh, so when we have bulky trash day,
Exactly, so as a recycling center, I can only do that 2 days a year. If we were a transfer station, I could accept daily.
You just have to have a place to store it.
And Richmond, I don't know if anybody's been over to Richmond's, but they store everything outside.
right?
They operate out of a little 2-car garage, basically.
Now, what is keeping Bodenham, and this may be a little off topic, what's keeping Bodenham from being a transfer station out at Pond Road? Is it we don't have the setbacks, because I thought we had enough land out there,
That's not the issue at all. I'm stuck in the middle.
okay?
Okay, there's 2 things going on. There's the barn. And there's Pond Road. And until somebody decides where I'm gonna operate. I'm in the middle.
Thought
I
right
can't
now
make-
you are operating on roads, that's
We are.
still a question,
It is a question.
okay?
There's been, to my knowledge, there has been no. Final decision on where I'm gonna operate.
Alan voted last year. Didn't have to visit the barn, action in that direction.
Yeah, like I said, I'm stuck in the middle here. There's.
And is there anything that would keep us from being a transfer station at Pond Road? I know we've got setback issues, with barn,
No, all I have to do is apply for the license. DEP has already come through and said we meet all the requirements to be a transfer station. It's just a matter of applying for a license. I haven't applied for a license because,
is it cost related that you haven't?
no. So it's, if I have to pack everything up and move to another location, then I have to go through it all over again.
And that is a fairly lengthy. Application.
It has to go through the planning board, town's planning board first,
It's just. To kind of
as I understand it.
back up, when we were at the barn, we were using that. As a transfer station, but it was grandfathered. And,
No, there was no grandfathering.
oh, what, that's not yet.
It was a recycling center that was. Collecting stuff.
Accepting things we shouldn't have done.
Okay.
But going back to the trash issue, there was a question about whether we needed. Formal RFP. Get bids on the new contract. Or somebody,
Right, so, and that's gonna be your decision if you wanna do an RFP or if you just wanna get on the phone and start calling around for bids.
I would think,
is the town obligated to do a formal RFP for contracts above a certain amount?
I don't believe so.
I've had a couple of discussions, never. I just got back from a discussion with Nicole about RFPs on something else. And I know we talked about it in the last meeting, whether it had to be formal or not. The things we talked about last meeting, the problem with doing formal. Is you don't wanna make it so. and this is not the right word, intimidating, that people are not gonna respond to you. The issue of doing it informally is that you don't have anything in writing, and the town is gonna need at least a contract, so there's gonna have to be something in writing. You know, we went back and forth, and I'm wondering, and I would ask input whether or not you think could be like a middle ground where we could say, we need something in writing. But, I mean, we can craft it so it's not particularly onerous.
But, see those legal notices sometimes down with whatever seeking bids for this or that.
Yeah, with our piece, you probably have to really identify who your market is, and we've got. What, 3 different vendors out there that are possibilities?
It's not, there's a lot of small companies and there's a couple of large companies. But it's still smaller. Where we pick from.
Now, how can we identify who that group might be?
I don't have that answer. I mean, I know who's small, who's large, because I've been dealing with them
Yeah,
for, years. I know there are a couple out there that's getting ready to retire also.
oh,
Yeah. So,
and nobody new coming on the scene.
not that I know of.
I wonder if, when you're talking to, Thompson Bowden, when you talk, whether or not you can. See if there's anyone other, I mean, obviously we have the big ones right now, got a pretty small vendor, right? He's not that big.
He does 3 towns. He does Lisbon, Bowden,
So Bowden does have a pickup program.
He's just one of the people that's authorized to pick up. He doesn't work, he doesn't have a contract with the
Oh, he
town.
doesn't have a contract, okay.
That's just one of his areas that he services.
He picks up the entire town of Lisbon.
No, not the entire town. He
Does a specific area.
exactly, he has, customers that he goes around and picks up for. Lisbon has a transfer station, you take your trash there.
Brian, is that something that we can ask you, well, first of all, can we ask you to really identify who that market might be? The big ones are probably pretty easy for you to identify, but if you can, while you're doing some calling around, just. Or do you know of any way that we can get,
I mean, I could get online and Google. Servicers, yeah, right.
We had talked a little bit about how many miles his route was.
Well, the town has roughly 40 miles, 42 miles of public roads.
let's get back, because I know we did this last time. Let's get back to kind of, one thing we were talking about is, what do we want our approach to be? Formal RFP, just picking up the phone, or something in the middle where we're giving people, because RFPs, they come with, here are the specifications, so here are the number of roads, here's the amount of tonnage, here's that kind of stuff. And then, ask whatever questions we have on that, and, what's your pricing kind of thing. Questions like, are you, right now, our current program, you have got trash tags, are you willing to continue that current program? Because I'm not sure that every hauler does, will look for tags on trash bags, they might. That's just, so there might be some questions on that, questions like, one of the questions we might want to ask is, because I know reading the stuff, is it an option to have you pick up recycling as well? Not that we're necessarily going to execute on that option, but it'd be great to know that, yeah, we used to have recycling picked up. Is that something that, so those might be some of the questions we want to ask. So again, the question is, I think I know where I'm on this, but do we want to do formal middle of the road or just telephone?
Just seems like it'd be quicker if you just. It's a phone first.
Yeah.
How about like Riverside Disposal, is that someone that would do something like that?
I don't know, yeah, I don't know if they wanna take on a town contract.
I'm,
Right, exactly, yeah.
you know, one of the things we could do would be to call Riverside and ask if they're, or whoever it is can ask. Would you be willing to respond? Because they've gotta, I mean, we've gotta, whether we do it informally or not, we need to make sure that we're issuing, here are the specifications. And I know you were gonna give us tonnage numbers and revenue numbers. I don't know if you have that with you this week. Okay.
I've been,
But we need to make sure that everybody's responding to the same specs. Which is one of the reasons I'm kind of, and I know I'm changing my mind a little from last time, I'm kind of edging towards what's in the middle. So we can lay out in the front, and I'll be glad to do a lot of the sort, like I said, I used to run an RFP team. But you know, we probably need to, here's what we have right now, here's the tonnage, here's the number of roads. You know, we do, our model is once a week with tickets, you know, so that's what, so everyone's playing from an even field. And then going from there. But to your point, it might be, you know, we can ahead of time call them up and say, are you, you know, we'd like to do this. You know, would you like to do that? So,
And I'm just thinking off the top of my head, the names on the dumpsters I see, any of those.
right,
Pretty much Riverside and sell. Anybody else?
used to be Estabrook, but he stopped servicing both, you know. He's getting smaller and smaller also.
Riverside has the red dumpsters.
Yes. Yeah. Kevin Smith also has red dumpsters.
Kevin Smith, that's what I was thinking.
And I think he's getting ready to get out of it also. And I don't know if anybody new that's coming on right now.
Maybe young entrepreneur, it's got a truck.
Yeah, that's. Well, that's why I floated the idea of the town. Purchasing a truck and. Picking it up ourselves,
mhm.
but then, requiring an additional employee or. Somebody with a, CDL license.
He covers the whole town in one day, there's a difference day.
He has 2 trucks because of him one day,
2 trucks, 1
you
day.
know,
So it's basically 2 days work.
it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Or one long day, so they pick up and they're typically heading to West Bath. Around 1 o'clock. So if you just had 1 truck, I don't think you'd get the whole town if you only had 1 truck. I think you're gonna need 2 trucks.
But no, these guys are,
He does,
We're 1 truck on 2 days.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna bring us back, because I'd like to get kind of a. Phone call, middle of the road phone.
What is middle of the road?
To me, and this is just, and I do have our experience, to me, middle of the road is, here's kind of a letter, here's what our specifications are, here's what we're doing. Here's our timeline, here's what we need. Here are a couple of questions like, is it an option for recycles? Where do you dump the stuff? Because is that something that, as a town, I mean, they take it to West Bath. Other haulers might take it to anywhere else, where do you dump the stuff might be another question. I know, Brian, you could probably come up with, so here's a, 6, 7 questions of, just to get us more information. One of the questions might be, is there another model? This is what our program is, can you see any way for us to do it differently better? What do you suggest as a vendor that has experience there? So here's our specifications, here's our timeline, here are a couple of questions. And then one of the important things is, this is signed by someone who's authorized in your company. One of the questions seem to be, we'll need to have a contract, we'll work out, those kind of things. That's middle of the road. formal is, and I gotta tell you, having dealt with formal from government entities. They're like legal requirements and, you know. 16-page questionnaires and all of that stuff, and I think. I mean, we could write something like that. But I'm not sure that we need to. Um,
Yeah, it does, that seems like overkill,
I,
something to pick up trash. If, once we identify someone. We like it, then all.
we'll have to, well. If we're gonna go this way, we should identify several carriers that will, if we're gonna send. You know, we'll send this, you know, I don't know, 3-page document, whatever it is, out to. Give them a timing on when they're gonna get that. And then we should also talk about what are the criteria. So that when we present it to the selectmen, because we'll have to say, here are the bids that we got. This is what we laid out as being important criteria. You know, selectmen, here's our recommendation, we're advising, you know, we're advisory committees, and here's our advice is to do that. So I, you know. Thoughts,
Yeah, I like the little approach.
okay,
You know, sometimes I see those notices, you know. Soliciting bids for. More information, contact the town office, and then do the specification.
and then I'm assuming that maybe we wanna call ahead to see if anyone. You know, Pat, your idea,
I,
let them know it's coming, say, hey, we'd really like you to bid on it.
yeah, I think that's a good idea, just to. Or even get a feel for, are you open to something like this, should we? Waste a stamp on you or not?
How much? Are we paying public roughly?
Per bag
No, for the year.
for the year,
Yeah.
or,
No.
I've captured a note, and I may not have captured it in the last minutes for Brian, for you to give us. The specs, the tonnage, the revenue, the cost.
that was.
The contract tells how much we're gonna pay him per dime. This total amount, and just the ballpark figure.
Yeah, I don't have my budget in front of me, otherwise I could give you. Pretty close to what.
Cause if we're paying this and our trash tags cost more than what's in this contract. Would be good to understand. Because it's a,
Our tags do not cover the cost of the service.
that's what I heard, yet I'm looking here. July 1st, 23 to July 30th, 24. It's $2.15 per bag, and of course our trash tags are more than that, so what?
Right. So he gets $2.15 per bag picked up. And then I have to pay for disposal.
Ah,
So there's an additional bill that comes from Casella for disposal. And that works out,
is that the Bath, West Bath?
yes, that's where it's currently hauled. There's 2 other options. And one's really not feasible because it's just too far away. But there is another option for trash disposal. And I talked to the VP recently, and it'll probably come in $20 a ton cheaper than Casella. It's sizable.
I'm seeing here $115 a ton,
Yeah,
that's what they charge us. To take our trash.
right. And typically he hauls about 5 or 6 tons in there a week.
So. Question, right now we're just talking about trash haulers, not the disposal. And I didn't look, I just see this, when is this contract through?
June 30th, that meeting is
Of 24?
23rd, 24, yeah, 24.
Okay, so the Casella is the same thing.
Yeah, because we try to marry them all.
Okay.
June 30th to 24th.
in whatever we give to the trash haulers, we'll need to identify that the trash disposal is either in West Bath or something, because that may make a difference to the hauler.
Right.
So if you could identify, it's West Bath and where's the other place?
In Auburn.
I don't know if it would make any difference to the hauler.
It all depends on where they're out,
Yeah.
you know, all depends on where they're based.
Um,
If they're coming down from Augusta, pick up our trash and, you know, they probably wanna maybe even haul it back to Augusta. Cause Augusta has a landfill.
but then is that something that we as the town would need to contract with Augusta? For the disposal fee, if the trash hauler is different than the disposal.
Well,
Unless you write the contract that the
right,
hauler will also pay the disposal fee, which they still pay the hauler.
right.
So right now we do them separately, but that's a good point, we could put them together.
What's the name of this down in Sullivan? I should go down.
What's that name?
Yeah, I don't know who you talk, I have
Lots of names. What's your question?
about trash. How much would they, cause I see they charge us $400.18 per trip. For full hour cycles. Does that sound right?
That's the haul fee.
That's the haul.
Right.
What if we had a couple dumpsters, that everybody brought their trash, to, would it still be $400 haul fee? This was, yeah,
I'll ask that question.
$400 haul fee at $2.15 a bag would only be 186 bags, going full, a lot more than that for the week.
But you get 186 bags of it in the dumpster.
Right, so we get, yeah. I know that was,
But is the haul fee, and I have a, so that is the haul fee you're talking about for the recycle haul or the trash haul?
either or, it's just a trucking fee for them.
Right now, it's just recycling because we don't accept trash.
Yes.
But if it was trash, it would still be the same haul fee. It would
So
still-
that's talking about changing our model,
Yep.
Right,
which brings me to one of the next,
and if we were gonna have a dumpster for trash, we have the transfers.
We do have to be a transfer station.
and that means that, so. In trying to meet the current deadline. Cause I think that's something to be explored, but is that something to be explored right now? And pushed into this time frame? Or because if we're gonna open it up, I mean, one of the other things that Brian mentioned is, does the town wanna hire an employee and buy a truck? My thought, and I did talk to Nicole about this briefly, is that that may be a viable solution down the road. But as we've got between now and the end of the year, to nail down costs and stuff, that's something that we really wanna jump into. Brian, another question for you. Casella they pick up the silver bullets or whatever we'll call them for recycle.
Yes,
And right now they're the West Bath facility as well,
yes,
so we have two things at Casella.
yes.
Well, actually, three, because we did on the sorting.
No, there's no sorting fee. There's,
I thought there was a sorting fee on recycling.
no, there's and it's in their contract.
Can we,
Anyway,
yeah. Let me finish first. Will Casella be amenable to us all of a sudden taking away part of the business? Let's say we wanted to put disposal someplace else, so we have hauling, which is separate. But if we separate the disposal, I mean, Casella might be at one place, they say, hey, we've got this business in Buckingham, so, that's great. If we break it up, is that something that,
There is nothing in their contract that prevents us from hauling it elsewhere.
okay,
We are locked into a price if we do haul it to them. But there's nothing in the contract that says that we have to bring it to them. And that's why I was talking to this other facility. It's just a matter of getting somebody called there.
Neighbor, so the things you want.
And what? Main waste acting. Which is actually owned by the town of Bowden.
It's owned by boat.
Yes, so
That is,
back in,
it's located in Auburn and it's
right,
owned
so
by boat.
back in 20 years ago, 11 towns got together. All pitched in a bunch of money, and they built the facility. So they are members. They're owners of that facility. If we want to use it, we can use it, but we will be a non-member. Or non, they got a name for it.
Yes, we're not a founding member, whatever it is.
Right. So we won't, because it only cost them. It was some crazy fee, like $23 a ton. To dispose of stuff.
But that's because they're a founding member as opposed to what
Exactly.
we would be. Okay.
Yeah, they kicked in I think it was $1.1 million.
Wow. But that's paying off for them now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so here's just to recap what I'm hearing so far. Middle of the road approach. There are different places for disposal, so whatever our RFP is, we'll talk about different places saying currently we're doing this, but that may change. So that anybody that's looking at it could know that might change. Timing on this, and then one of the things that we touched on a little bit, but we haven't really gotten into is different models, and that kind of brings on the agenda public input. And we know that timing, we've got to have this nailed down by the end of the year for budgeting purposes. We've talked about different models, town doing it. My opinion is that's a great thing for us to plan for in the future and think about. Is that something we want to do? But maybe not throw it onto our plate, given that we have just between now and the end of the year to nail this down. Another model is, silver bullet. Everyone comes and throws their own trash in the bullet, and I would think that we would want public input on that before we move forward. In particular, because I think most of the people in town are fine, like what we're doing now. I know when we went to, and this, it's very interesting to me, but when we went to single source recycling, the recycling numbers, and correct me if I'm wrong, actually dropped from what they used to be. I don't know why. So if we went to is that not?
We started single source in 2008.
Oh, okay. So
It's always been single source.
So even though we had to separate the barn then threw it back
It
together.
all got thrown back into a truck.
Interesting.
The only
Okay.
thing that has changed from 2008 till today is the mode of transportation, getting it to Westpath. We used to haul it, now they come and pick it up. That's the only thing that's changed.
Interesting.
And that's what my last committee said also.
So we never sorted.
Well, we sorted paper, cardboard, metal.
And it all got taken up to the third floor and dumped in the same.
Put back together. So even though we sorted it,
Baled separately?
no,
Cardboard was baled.
cardboard is still baled
It's
separately.
still baled, So paper, when there was a market for it, we would bale paper. Paper commodities went out in 2015. There hasn't really been a paper market.
And metal, we had a metal truck, but then there was the cans. What happened to that? They didn't get nailed?
The metal goes to Gremels,
Yeah,
okay? Cans, for a short time, we tried to add cans to the metal.
yeah,
At the metal recyclers request, we stopped doing that.
They didn't want
No, that's not the problem, it's falling through their machines. And so it's just ended up on the ground, it wasn't getting recycled. And some of the cans are aluminum, you know, some are tin and some are steel.
So again, back to another model would be that we have a silver bullet for trash. And is that something? I'm personally not a fan of that, but I'm just one vote in the public, and the reason I'm not a fan, a couple of reasons. One, I mean, we're supposed to be age-friendly community, and having elderly drop their trash off is. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, Auburn just went to silver bullets that were open all the time for recycling. And there was a big story in the news about how people from all towns were all just throwing stuff in, and it wasn't, I mean, right now, when you go to the recycle, you know, they'll say to you, oh, we, you know, even though that's corrugated cardboard, since it's got a grease stain on it, you know, that, and so we get a little guidance, which I think is positive and should be positive for the recycle market at the end, kind of stuff. So, you know, you got some of that stuff going on. But do we need, and how do we get input from the public on what model? Or do we just go ahead, current model, we need someone to pick up? And if we want to change model, talk about that, you know, over the, you know, once we get past, hey, here's our tight deadline. So, you know, the questions, and it can be very easy. We can ask people to come into the next meeting. We could ask people just to send you input, put something in the newsletter.
Public input is good. But I wonder, do other towns do that? Stop some, with everybody, the vote with, or they just say, no, this is what we're doing now. I'm not saying that's the right.
And I don't know. I don't know when the last time they changed. I mean, we didn't get any input because we've had the current trash hauler for 30 years. Yeah.
30 years, right?
So, you know, we haven't had to get input because we weren't doing a change.
And I would, my suggestion about a centralized location where people brought their trash, I would expect a lot of pushback on that. Just I would expect it. But I wonder if there'd be that much pushback if there was such a cost savings that it would fund our recycling program too. I see a substantial cost savings.
And that's how Thompson runs their facility. They collect trash at their, right next to their recycling. They have 2 compacting dumpsters, one's for trash, one's for recycling.
If
if people had bring their stuff to a central location, we end up with more informal dumping in the woods and the open.
It's over.
yeah,
Some people don't want to be bothered.
that said, if, because we're changing haulers, if we have to increase the trash ticket pricing, we might get some of that anyway. So I think it's 6-1. So what I'm hearing this group saying is that some public input at this point might be a good idea.
Yep.
If we can get it. But goes to the question of how do we select all that input?
Well, I mean, we could do a survey pretty easily, and I would just suggest if we're doing a survey on trash hauling, that we make it. I mean, you could put any other issues, you know, open comments at the back, but we focus on the trash piece, not the recycle piece.
Right.
To try to keep them pure, if you will, because otherwise I think we get too much noise to get a really good feeling on direction. Is that?
I agree.
Now, Pat, I know last time you said based on your sociology background, you know, surveys are, and I agree, I've done a ton of surveys, I agree, you know, questions and stuff are such. Is that something you'd be willing to take a crack at if we were asking questions about trash pickup or, you know, silverable or, I mean,
I could possibly put something together for the.
that we could look at.
And of course. If I was the survey writer, so to speak. Even though I would intend it to, my biases. Get put into reflection, so.
Well, I think if you bring something to us, maybe between the 3 or 4 of us, we can try to tweak it such that we can moderate bias out.
Yeah.
But if you would be kind enough to put some questions together that we could get out fairly quickly.
So this would be a mail out survey.
What was the last one? Mail was the last one online.
It was online.
Yeah, I think we can do a lot on. Probably, I think, you know, we have to,
Does the town have a? Is it to show up on the town website?
It would be, yeah, it would be connected to the town website.
So you gotta let people know there is a survey on the town website.
yeah, we could certainly we could put something in the town newsletter.
That's.
Yeah, I think it's too late.
For the next,
Yeah, for the September, October,
Hmm,
I'm sure it's at the printer already.
that's cutting close.
So the next newsletter you could get it in would be November, December.
That's, yeah, that's not enough time.
1st of October or something. No, it's a long wait time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another option could be that we could just ask. Well, we couldn't put it in a newsletter. You asked for
You could
just
do a
public.
mail. You could do a mailer, you know, just send it out to,
Resident,
yeah, every resident, just saying, you know, we have a survey, go to the town website.
so it'd be like a postcard,
Yeah, yeah, those are pretty reasonable as far as cost. Feedback that I got on this one. Of the last survey we did was there was too many questions.
There
Yeah.
was questions to, so.
So how did you pull it together? Just.
What-
Scale 1 to 5.
What,
Or,
yeah,
yeah,
well, I think it needs to be in those statement that. Our current trash collector is retired.
tiring.
At the end of the contract, we need. A new
yeah,
way of dealing. With
Right.
residential trash.
If you want to make it more productive. I know when I sent the minutes out, I sent them to everybody and just said, don't reply, because we don't want to go back and forth and conduct. But if you want to send out, here's what I came up with compared to the next meeting with thoughts and ideas, that would be very helpful.
well, and P.S. I did get the email from this,
Okay, good. Okay, so for public input. We are just gonna do a quick survey with a mailer to tell people that it's there. You know, please spend 3 minutes to do the survey, or, you know, it's only a couple of questions, it's not gonna take people long.
And if it is just a couple questions, you might be able to just put it on the mailer,
Yeah,
you know. And then just have them return it to the.
yeah, drop it off the town hall. So Pat, whatever, I mean, come up with some kind of suggestion and if that's the best way to do it.
I mean, obviously, the first question is. Do you want trash collection to remain as it is?
Yeah,
And should it be a 1 through 5 strongly agree, or speak yes or no?
yeah. Yeah, let's pick up.
And let me back up on the sociology background. I was a sociology major, but I'm a wood flooring contractor. It was 30-something years.
Psychic for social minders, so, okay, I'm there with you. Okay, so. That'd be great if you could just,
Some of the options would be. Collection as usual. Central location to bring your trash. You're on your own.
the state regulations don't allow us to be on. Regardless of what they're doing,
And voting.
yeah, that's, I put it in the. Minutes as well as I put a link to, you can get it. So I think I cited in. Yeah, the top page two. It states specifically, each municipality shall provide solid waste disposal services for domestic and commercial solid waste generated within the municipality. And then there's a link so that you can see everything if you want. But since. Although other communities, and we did talk about this, although other communities may. Not do that. I personally don't feel comfortable making advice to the. Board of Selectmen, which is a judiciary body, to do something that is not in keeping with. What state statutes say you need to do.
Yeah.
And
And we
that's.
all swore to the Constitution law.
Well, I know the US, well, the US doesn't have that, yeah, it does have that, so. That'd be great,
Yep.
Pat, if you could do that, so we'll have that next meeting, which I think. We're gonna do that meetings. Twice a month or every 2 weeks, I think twice a month we talked about. So by next meeting, if we can finalize that, then we can get that in the works. So that we can have that input, at the same point. Brian, if you can. And I may reach out to you separately, Brian. I'll take a stab at. Putting in specifications, like I said, I'm pretty familiar with RFPs, putting in specifications and stuff like that. Brian, I'll reach out to you, and maybe we can sit together and put a couple of things together. On what that would need to look like, and again, if that work is done before our next meeting. I'll send it out for review so we can come prepared, but not for comment. Through email. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
So we'll get input, we'll draft up, we'll start drafting of what we need to do, and then the thing, Brian, that still is. We're looking for you, I think, is to identify more of the. Who are the, the markets, keep doing the talking with Richmond and all the towns that you could talk to. But finding out who are the markets, and I would even ask our current caller, I mean, we've got a relationship there. They've got to know.
Yeah, so he's. How much I could.
Who drives his own truck? Is he interested in taking over?
His son.
Is he interested in taking over?
He is not.
No. Been there, done that.
He is not. Yeah, but so there is a prospective buyer. For his company,
Oh, that would be nice.
right, so. I don't know how much I can get into. There may be an option. I'll say that, so.
Will we know enough? On that by
Hope
the
to know.
time we need to know?
Yes. Yes, he has said he will give me an answer by December. On what the plans are gonna be, whether they're gonna shut down or sell, the route or. Or whether his son is gonna take over, but I'm friends with his son.
But his son's not interested.
I'm not
Okay.
interested.
Can I get a number from you for? How many trash tags? This year or last year,
Yeah, I can give you that number,
and also.
but it's not going to do you any good.
It was gonna be
I have people that come in and no kidding, buy a year's worth of tickets.
That's fine.
But if-
They don't use them in that year.
Will Plummer know how many bags they pick up? Do they track by bags or do they only track by tonnage?
No, they track by bags, cause I pay him per bag.
So we'll know how many are used. So we can know what's bought, we can know what's used.
Right. And there is a difference.
Okay,
We had this discussion 4 or 5 months ago.
and some of that will be, and I'll put in here and highlight that's information. So tonnage, tags used, tags bought, revenue. Or cost, revenue that we're getting in versus cost of going out.
Right, yeah, I can get all of that. It won't be quick, but I can get all that.
Hey, you got 2 weeks before next meeting.
No less than that.
I may be out for a while, I gotta go in for surgery,
Oh,
so, yeah.
is that something that somebody else in your team can help with?
Maybe. Maybe, we're pushing our limits as it is,
Yeah. Cause I know you got some great team members.
and they stay busy.
If there's anything that any of us can do to help. I'm not opposed to making some calls myself, if that's it, or I mean, I'm not sure what help would be as far as, help versus getting in the way. But if you can think of a way that any of us can help. By all means, let us know. Anything else on trash before we move on to solid waste ordinance that's next on the agenda? The solid waste ordinance, and we did a lot of talking about this last time. Is really gonna be in several pieces. One is certainly gonna be the waste piece of it, the trash piece of it, and one's gonna be a recycle piece of it. Obviously, the recycle is gonna take an awful lot more input and then. I mean, separating that out from trash is gonna be very helpful to getting us focused on what really the input is and what we wanna do. My thought on tackling the recycling piece, I think if we tackle the trash pieces, we start writing the ordinance, the trash piece of it should write itself, pretty much. And I've written a lot of this stuff, so I'll draft stuff when we get there and obviously send to the committee for thoughts. But the recycling, there's gonna have to be a lot, and I would rather, like, for instance, public input on recycling is gonna be critical, even though we've got a bunch of it, I think, that's 3 years old now. So we'll want some update on that. I would be cautious of trying to get the update on that coinciding with getting update on trash, because it's gonna get too tangled. So. Given that, should we say that what this committee is gonna focus on for the next. Maybe 3 meetings or so is solely based on the trash piece. And then we'll pick up recycling. In like a month and a half, that would be 3 meetings, trash only, and then. Then we can start talking.
Yes,
Is
I
that,
mean, in my opinion, yes, recycling is taking care of itself, right? That's moving, it's working. There's
yeah,
nothing's broken there, right? Trash will be broken. Soon,
Yeah.
relatively soon, that's the.
Yeah.
fire.
the deadline on recycling. Is more that we want an ordinance written by the end of first quarter so that it will be available for voting in town meeting. That said, if we go back to our thought on what the ordinance needs to be, it needs to be what has to happen, not how to do it. Current ordinance has a bunch of how to do it, and I mean, current ordinance talks specifically about we will recycle glass, we will recycle this and that, it was written many years ago, almost 30 years ago now, and the market has changed. So I think we want to get away from that, away from the how, and just say. Quote, he was interested in recycling, we're interested in recycling things that go in it for environmental purposes. And if we're doing it for environmental purposes, we ought to ask our vendor whether or not they've got an annual report or something that talks about the disposition of what they recycle. Because if they just take recycle and throw it in a landfill, that defeats the environmental purpose that we might have. So that would give the selectmen something to look at to say, you know, maybe we're not gonna keep a recycling program that's not doing that. Or we're really interested in recycling, and we're interested in recycling to the extent that even though it doesn't pay for itself, the town is willing to allow it to run over by, you know, we're willing to pay 50% more, and I'm just throwing that out, may not be, you know, for recycling than what we get in. But if it gets more than that, you know, where's the town cut point? And I think those are things that we really want to get public input on. So put on the recycling until we really have a good handle on trash. And then make sure that we get robust input on the what, but not the how, and it's in my opinion that we don't tackle the where. That it might outline things like, you know, whatever recycling facility is, whether it's the barn or something else, it needs to meet, you know, OSHA requirements. We've got employees there, we've got, you know, so we need to put some of that stuff, you know, wherever it happens, and then wherever it is, it happens. You know, we feel strongly that it needs to be a transfer station. We need to make sure that we put that in too. Maybe not, I mean, it wasn't before, so maybe that's not a big deal, I don't know.
Well, if it says it has to be at the same location, you could have some things at one place and the transfer station in another.
That's possible, yeah, and we want input on that, you know, is the public willing to have a transfer station here? And a recycle there? Or should it all be one? And maybe we don't even specify. Any,
The trash contract hasn't gone out for bid every year, it's been renewable, it's been,
Yeah, it's been updated and,
yeah, it's been treated, but
right, exactly.
it hasn't been on. Right, let's see bidders on this.
you know, the last time it did go to bid, yeah, that's just
Yeah.
curiosity.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I do know that. And what is this, 23? Probably 10 or 12 years ago. David asked Casella Waste Management and another, maybe Toronto's, for estimates on them going around picking up trash. And the cheapest one was Casella, and 10 or 12 years ago, that was $169,000 to take over the trash.
And what's it about now?
I want to say 80, but because it's offset by there's revenue involved with it. Okay, so cost of the trash tag takes away from my actual cost to the program is probably 80,000, 90,000.
And then when we find out how many trash tags are sold, that add the two together.
I sell approximately $100,000 a year in trash tags.
So it's about the same amount then. Because if you're paying 80 and we're getting 100,000 in the trash tag sale, that's 180,000.
Well, my budget's 218 though. And I'm bringing in, you know, 100,000 in tags. I'm bringing in different amounts of revenue for metal and cardboard and that, so. The actual cost of my program is probably 80,000.
For the trash.
That's net, that's
Right.
That's net.
Which I had a question from you, I can give you all the things.
Well, maybe next time.
No, that is disposable also. Yeah.
So we'll get those figures for next time and have something there. I'll put it in the minutes. Don't you worry about it.
Well, I like that bold,
Bold,
stood right out to me.
Just so I'm clear,
bold.
it's a cost of 80,000.
That's just a number I'm throwing out, without my budget, I'm not gonna give you any.
But that would be for the trash, that's not recycling.
But that's
Trash.
That's the net, I think, Pat, what I'm hearing is that that's what he pays on top of what the trash tags. So you have to add the trash tags to the 80. To get what the total amount is, and there are other numbers that come into it. So in other words, you're paying 80,000 and people through trash tags are paying 100,000?
No, I'm paying 180,000, whatever,
Okay.
and I'm bringing in 100,000 in tag purchases. You know,
Okay.
which brings it down relative.
I know the tag did not cover the collection and disposal of trash.
Right, yeah, we're still
But,
30 or 40 cents a bag short.
And I think that's something that we probably need to work into our next meeting is what is our philosophy on tags covering the whole cost? Because that would be in the ordinance that the direction is, within 10%. We shouldn't say that a tag is like $4.26. I mean, it should be,
Right.
make it even $4, only $4.25, whatever it is, that it should be kind of even. But that's something that we should probably tackle, and that may be something for. As we get there, is the philosophy of this that trash, which is a usage. So people that don't use trash are paying within the town taxes. $80,000, they're making up for what other people use. And there are people in town that use dumpsters that don't use any, and their tax money is going to make up that 80. So what's the philosophy? That trash tags should cover the cost of the program plus or minus 10%, or whatever it comes out to. But I would suggest that as a discussion for next meeting, which brings us to our next meeting. Which, did we say, I can't remember, say every 2 weeks or twice a month?
Second and fourth.
Second and fourth, okay. So that brings our next one to September 12th.
13.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, 13. I'm looking at Tuesdays.
So I am gonna go. I'm gonna get on Zoom, and I'm gonna schedule. Probably 10 or 12 meetings out.
Okay.
To get it done, so I'm gonna go with second and fourth Wednesday.
That's in between that time. Obviously, Pat, you're gonna work on thoughts for survey. I'll get notes out and I'll start putting together some stuff on RFP. Brian, I may talk to you separately just to try to get that RFP. So let's make sure that work continues on stuff. But
So just so I'm clear, you want tonnage, revenue, tickets sold, and bags collected.
that's collected. I think that was. Yeah, tonnage, revenue versus cost. Tags, budgeted, yes, so. Revenue would be more tags versus cost. But I'll put it in and involve it. So I think we got it. Other business that we had was make sure everyone does their FOA training. Everyone's sworn in, they've got their appointments. And any other thoughts?
What's the freedom of access training?
We got an email a while ago from, what's her name?
Tina.
Tina, thank you. We got an email from Tina, and I think you got it. If you got my email, then you got Tina's email, because I grabbed your email address from that. So if you got the minutes, take a look at that. There was a selectmen's meeting where the town attorney, Leah. Whatever, and I've got her last name, Leah actually did the training. In that email is also a copy of the PowerPoint deck that she used. So what you have to do is watch that, and in that email, it tells you when to start it up. It was like minute 16, 17. Leah's last name, got that,
Rachel.
yeah, something like that, Rachin.
Yeah.
You need that last name because there's also in that email is a form that has to be handed in that says that you took it.
And FYI, here in about 2 weeks, the select board is gonna be getting that very training again,
Oh, okay.
so. I don't know if we're gonna have to do the new one. Probably not,
Yeah.
yeah,
Town attorney name is Leah, Leah, Rachin, Rachin. And there's a place on the form that says who gave the training, so you would put her in. And there's a link to that, and again, there's the form. So you've got that. And Tina sent that note out on July 26th. So if you're sorting your emails, look for that date. So that brings us to, are there any?
That was pretty close to the date you sent out Yuri.
July 26th, no, I think I sent my email out later, but regardless, July 26th was,
Because I don't think I'd even applied to be a member.
well, I got your email address from that note, so you probably had just applied. So the last thing is, are there any other items that we didn't touch on that you guys feel are important to touch on? Brian, anything you can think that we?
no, I do. If you want, Pat's already done this, but. If any of the committee members want to tour. The sorting facility, I can arrange that.
The one on Pond Road or Casella?
Stella's sorting facility.
Okay, that'd
Oh,
be
yeah.
great. Yeah, that'd be
In
great.
Lewiston.
It is interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of people think that, like you had said earlier, that stuff's going over there and it's getting thrown away. I assure you, it's being baled and it's being sold.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
It's been a national news story
Sure,
that a lot of what Americans recycle ends up getting put on a boat and sent to another country. Or so, and that, and I know because I've heard people from town being concerned that we're doing all this work to recycle and it's not actually being recycled. So that's just, particularly as we get into the recycling program piece of it and not focusing on trash to get that done, I think that would be a really good.
yeah, because they'll answer, they're open, they'll answer all your questions, they'll tell you who they're shipping it to. Like they told us with the last trip, most of the plastics are going to Louisiana. Or Alabama, something like that.
And the problem is that it's not in other countries, because China used to buy all of our stuff.
Yes.
Used to buy it, now they're not, the market crashed.
Yes.
Stuff's not worthless, but
But it's taking a while for domestic.
Yeah.
You gotta start picking it up.
and some of it, they're not
Mhm.
glass.
Most all of our cardboard goes to New Brunswick, Canada. Irving buys it. From their mill, pulp mill up there. One of them somewhere.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, if that's it, I move that we adjourn. Any objections?
And we actually voted for that form.
No, we are four. You're right, there's only four of us, so there's three of us are four.